Gentleman from Georgia.
Mr. Speaker, at this time, I'm pleased to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from South Texas, our friend Ron Paul.
Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Paul, is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the rule, but I would like to make a couple comments about why I do not think we should support this bill. I'm strongly pro-life. I think one of the most disastrous rulings of this century was Roe versus Wade. And I do believe in the slippery slope theory. I believe that if we're careless and casual about life at the beginning of life, we will be careless and casual about life at the end. And that abortion leads to euthanasia. I believe that. I disagree with the Oregon law. If I were in Oregon, I would vote against that law. But I believe the approach here is a legislative slippery slope. What we're doing is applying the same principle of Roe versus Wade by nationalizing law and therefore doing the wrong thing. So I think this bill should be opposed. I think it can backfire. If we can come here in the Congress and decide that the Oregon law is bad, what says we can't go to Texas and get rid of the Texas law that protects life? I think that's the main problem with this. Also, I believe it will really dampen the ability of doctors to treat dying patients. I know this bill has made an attempt to correct that compared to last year, but it doesn't. The Attorney General will decide who has given too much medication. If a patient is dying and they get too much medicine and they die, they could be in big trouble. They could have criminal charges filed. They could lose their license. Just recently, I had a member of my family pass away with a serious illness and required a lot of medication. But nurses were reluctant to give the medicine prescribed by the doctor for fear of lawsuit and fear of charges that something illegal was being done. With a law like this, it's going to make it much, much worse. Another thing is, this sets up a new agency for those conservative colleagues of mine who do not like the nationalization of medical care. What you're looking here is a new agency of government setting up protocols, educating doctors and hospitals, and saying this is the way palliative care must be administered. And you will have to answer with reports to the federal government. As bad as the Oregon law is, this is not the way you solve the problem. You're using the same principle as Roe versus Wade. So I would say that this bill is deeply flawed. I believe that nobody can be more pro-life than I am. Nobody who could condemn the trends of what is happening in this country and the movement toward euthanasia and the chances that one day euthanasia will be determined by the national government because of economic conditions.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Who seeks time? Gentlelady from Connecticut.
I'd like to recognize at this time my colleague, Mr. Paul from Texas, for 1.5 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized for 1.5 minutes.
I thank the gentlelady for yielding, and I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Chairman, I rise in support of this amendment. This will improve the bill. I am very concerned as a physician that this bill will do great harm to the practice of medicine. This is micromanaging the palliative care of the dying. So I strongly support this amendment because it will remove the severe penalties and the threats. Physicians are accustomed to practicing with lawyers over their shoulders. Now we're going to add another DEA agent over our shoulders to watch what we're doing. It is said that there's not going to be any change in law. Well, if there isn't, why the bill? Certainly there's a change in law. But you know, this bill does not state that it's dealing with euthanasia. It says it's a Pain Relief Promotion Act. You know, generally speaking, I look at the names of bill, and sometimes intentionally and sometimes just out of the way things happen here, almost always the opposite happens from the bill that we raise up. So I would call this the Pain Promotion Act. I really sincerely believe, as a physician, this will not help. Too often, physicians are intimidated and frightened about giving the adequate pain medication that is necessary to relieve pain. This amendment will be helpful. This is what we should do. We should not intimidate. The idea of dealing with the issue of euthanasia is killing. It's murder. I'm pro-life. I'm against abortion. I'm absolutely opposed to euthanasia. But euthanasia is killing. Under our Constitution, that is a state issue, not a congressional issue. I strongly urge the passage of this amendment.
Time of the gentleman has expired.